Jay Massey is a full-time real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur.
He also teaches people how to find deals, raise capital for real estate investments.
Meeting Jay Massey in person, you'd think he's just a regular guy. He's got jeans and a t-shirt on and a pair of sneakers. But he's built up a multi-million-dollar empire.
I hope you do have an empty notebook because it's going home filled.
Jay gives back so much value that I've never seen.
Now, at this moment, when I'm looking at the kitchen, things are going through my head.
You want to be friends with him, and he treats you like you're the only person in the room, even though it's for the benefit of everybody.
This is how, when you ask yourself, how does Jay do it? This is how.
He tells people that they have to take action, and they have to take action now. I took the action, and the results have paid off.
What happens when the marketplace understands who we are and how we go out there? Hey people, good morning. Wednesday? Yes, today's Wednesday. I don't know about you guys. Are you having trouble remembering what day it is sometimes? I can relate. That's all I'm going to say to that. And with that being said, welcome to another opportunity for us to not only connect, but hopefully build you, right? Remember, we've been talking about the process of building ourselves so that we can build our business, our families, we can get through, become something different, because that is exactly what the marketplace is asking for, well, all of us, right? All of us must change in some way, shape, or form. And again, the change for most of us was thrust upon us. It wasn't something that we volunteered for, but I think in a lot of cases, many of us could say that, yeah, it was absolutely needed. And if we're not at that point yet, in terms of believing that it's needed, I can also understand that too. One of the many things that I have witnessed, so many of you know, hi. For those of you who I haven't met, hi, my name is Jay, CEO of CashFlowDiary. What we do is we help individuals like you and you over there in the corner who become entrepreneurs. We tend to focus all of our teachings and lessons through the medium of real estate, if you will, specifically short-term rentals. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. Now, this particular stream, or these events that we've been doing at 8 a.m. Pacific time, this is not about short-term rentals, okay? So that is actually something we do at a completely different time, different day, different place. If you want to find out more information about that, you can go to cashflowdiary.com/learn live. Again, cashflowdiary.com/learn live. With that being said, though, one of the things that I think it's important, in fact, if this is your first time here, do me a favor, type the word first in the chat. So, because we want to know, and I want to interact with you guys, because when we get to that section, I want to see your questions, see your comments, and we can talk about those things. And most importantly, for those of you who are here for the first time, please note the following. We are currently streaming in seven different locations. So we will be cutting that down to 2. So for those of you on YouTube, you are in the right place. Perfect. Feel free to hit the like button anytime you feel like you've learned something. And for those of you on Facebook, we are going to be at facebook.com/CashFlowDiary Live. It's our brand new Facebook page. That's there, and we are transitioning everything to there. So if you like the previous Facebook page, or you're watching on the Facebook profile or one of our Facebook groups, feel free to go to facebook.com/CashFlowDiary Live, because that's where you will find us in the future when we're down to just 2 locations. All right. Now, with all of that being said, one of the things that is becoming apparent to me, because we have the privilege of working with a lot of people. You know, my wife and I, we got started in the real estate world back in 2008, June 18th, 2008 to be exact, was when we closed our first real estate transaction as investors. That was a subject to deal. For those of you who don't know what that is, basically we just took over payments on a house. The reason I share that with you is because during that time, like literally as that was happening concurrently, simultaneously, many of you may remember that there was a lot of economic turmoil. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of fear and doubt and, oh my God, what's going to happen in the marketplace? And not only in the marketplace, but for us as well. We were squatting in bank-owned property. I had a credit score of 398. We did not, there was no job to speak of. Someone told me once, you're like, you couldn't find a job, so you made one. That's what you did. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. That's what we ended up doing. The reason I am sharing that with you is, this time, is because I feel like this environment we're in is very similar to that. This environment we're all going through is very similar to that. There are some marked differences, and those marked differences are actually, in some cases, beneficial, especially from a psychological standpoint, because at that time it could feel like, you were the only one, or for us, it felt like we were the only ones going through it, because there wasn't a whole bunch of, support, so to speak. And there was no stimulus check. There was no programs. There was no Calvary. And that's fine. That was a lesson that we learned. There was no Calvary. If it was going to be, we had to figure it out and make it happen. What's important to understand, though, is that prior to that point, it's not exactly, we weren't necessarily anything other than I was a financial planner. My wife was a recruiter working for a staffing agency. So for all intents and purposes, we were, not doing anything other than just living life by default, I would say. And we weren't, I can't say that we were necessarily striving to do something or change the world in any particular way, but anything more than just survive. That's not to say that somehow today we got capes or something. Things are different. No, it's not that at all. But it is to say the following, is that once change is something you are dealing with, once change is something you are dealing with, once change is something that's in your space, once you are confronted, we are confronted, all of us are having to deal with becoming something different, well, the world, our perception of it, how we get up every morning changes. Let me explain. And for those of you wondering, this is one of my many accountability mechanisms, because many of you heard me previously talk about what's going on there. Here's what I mean. The process of change is not simple for any organism, any human, anything, and it's not any different for us. The process of change has difficulty involved in it. And typically there's a struggle involved in it. And the one thing that makes change bearable for most part is knowing that one day it will be over, right? We can handle almost anything so long as we have an end date. Well, interesting about this is we don't have an end date. We might want to try to force an end date. We might try to accelerate it in some way, shape, or form. We might try to resist, saying I don't need an end date, I'm good. Well, no, it's like typically humans, we want to know, when is this gonna be over? And we don't. So then we have to decide, are we going to adapt? And if so, great. But what does that look like? And sometimes we try to adapt by remaining the same, even though the world has changed, and it takes some of us a little while longer to figure out that just doesn't work, right? That just doesn't work. And then, unfortunately, we as a society, I will say, and again, I know I'm generalizing, we don't make it okay to struggle. We don't make this process something that we honor people for. In fact, it can be seen as something that is to not be mentioned, something to be ashamed of, something to hide, something to run away from. Well, good news. Nobody can run this time because we're all in it together. And I think there's freedom in that. There's freedom in knowing that, hey, your neighbor is experiencing some form of change just like you. That's what's happening right now. Your neighbor is, whether you like it or not. And at the end of the day, they can't say they're not. And we can all bond, if you will, upon that one thing. Here's why this is important, is because inside of change, inside the chaos, like one of the things that I've always said from stages, which again, speaking on stage, that's changed, huh? That's going to be completely different, right? Because I remember at the end of last year, one of the things I was like, you know what, 2020, that's the year. I want to go back out there and get some more speaking engagements and do some things. And yeah, that's going to look differently, isn't it? My point is, when it comes to change and being confronted with it, oftentimes you and I, we can come in contact with an understanding of the difference between our role versus our identity, who we identify as in a particular world or environment, if you will, versus what it is that we do, what is our role, right? Oftentimes, in fact, when you ask someone, who are you? They'll probably respond with their role. Hey, who are you? Oh, I work for a company over here. Okay, who are you? Well, I'm a father. Okay, awesome. Who are you? I'm not asking what do you do. I'm asking who are you? Who are you? Right? And as a general rule, we often respond with our role, not our identity. And right now, because of change, many of us are having to redefine both role and identity. Like what you do, how you do what you do is probably completely different, or will be completely different. And that's part of the uncertainty, is you don't know what your role is, and that is destabilizing. And you've maybe never decided who you are. And because of that, there's this state of anxiety, confusion, uncertainty, not really sure what to do. And here's the thing that's interesting about it, is that many of us are going to be and have been already presented with an opportunity to adjust our roles and or identities. Here's what I mean. When the world is going through, or when things go through a state of reorganization, also known as change, when things go through a state of reorganization, what happens is that there are new opportunities that also come along with it. Yes, what you were standing on, what you thought was stable, it's either shaken or maybe it got moved, right? And for some of you though, some of the things you were standing on, they're still there, but you're still blowing in the wind and you're like, gee, I would love for this to stop. Totally understood. Okay. But understanding that is part of the process of change. And I think submitting to that, and I know I use the S word, submitting to that, is something that is also a skill set. Being willing to submit to it, not resisting the change, embracing it, knowing that on the other side of it, well, we have a shot at becoming something different. I mean, the blacksmith understands this. We know that our precious metals, gold, it undergoes refinement in different ways, specifically with a lot of heat, which is usually it's not comfortable, right? And that heat shows up differently for each and every one of us. But when we are confronted with who we are, our identity, right? And sometimes we just think it kind of happened, right? We and it may have. In fact, being a person who works and helps and develops entrepreneurs, and we have done so for a number of years. One of the things that happens is when confronted with an opportunity to change your identity, we go through this period of what I think psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Now, I'm no psychologist, and for those of you who probably are, God, just give me some grace, right? I'm just trying to explain a concept here to help. Is because oftentimes when we're presented with the change, the first thing that comes up is that, that's not me. I've never done that. I can't do that. I just want to go, because we want to go back to the way things were. I think that's a song, right? I think so. I don't know the song, but anyway, we want to go back to the way things were, but the way things were don't work. The world has changed. The world has moved on, and maybe we are stuck, or maybe we are wanting to insist or persist in the former way. And that's part of the struggle, is reshaping and reclaiming a new identity that is capable of existing in the new version of the world that is now in front of us. This happens all the time. And I watch it happen to people day in, day out, because part of what I hear on a regular basis, I would love to be in real estate. I would love for these new things to happen to me. I would love for this, that, and the other. And got it, totally understood. Every entrepreneur feels that. There's something that we are after, something we are wanting to obtain, something greater than what we may have experienced or anyone that we know has experienced before. There's a certain level of change we'd like to see in the world, and it doesn't even matter. It's not about money. It's just that you want to be that change agent, that person of impact and significance in some way, shape, or form. And you usually want it for someone else, and definitely yourselves as well. But when you begin to do the things, or you begin to make commitments towards the things, internally, your body starts screaming, your mind starts screaming. This is what happens, your typical quote unquote buyer's remorse type of feeling, right? Because you just took an action towards the thing that you've always envisioned, that you have built up in your head. One day, I will get to be this great thing, which is true. And now that you're presented with an opportunity to go pursue it, to go do it, because, hey, maybe you said, you know what, I would totally crush this thing if I had time. And now you got time. Or maybe you said, you know what, if I could just get more hours, more responsibility, more something at work, and maybe you're working in IT and you just now realize that, oof, shouldn't ask for that, right? Or maybe you've been wondering, shouldn't I, change. I never pursued, I never continued the thing that I wanted to do. And now you have an opportunity to actually go for it, right? But that's scary, not because it's actually like frightening per se. It's destabilizing because you've never seen that version of you. You don't know what that version of you looks like. And internally, you're like, that's not me. That's not anything I've ever done. You start wanting to adapt to the habits. And heaven forbid, should you run into me or someone in our company, because we're going to keep pushing you to become a different person. Because that's what's necessary. And just so that you can resolve that cognitive dissonance, because we believe fundamentally that there's greatness inside all of us. And it's seeking expression in various different forms. And sometimes we got to shake off the dross, as they say, so that the silver comes out, so that it can be refined. We got to get rid of some of those habits. I mean, people have asked me all kinds of questions about, how did we do it and all that type of stuff. One of the things that I do believe that's very, very true. It's not so much about learning a new habit that quote unquote makes you successful, however you define that. It's more about unlearning the habits that have kept you poor. Hopefully write that in the chat. It's not about learning a string or a collection of habits that are some mysterious secret that somehow make you successful at being a mom or being whatever you want to be. It's more about unlearning the habits that have kept you poor. And You can define successful and poor any way you like. So, but when you're confronted with the opportunity, oftentimes our minds reminds us of what we're not, how that's not us, or it threatens us. It says you're gonna be alone. Oh my God, if you start going this direction, all of your friends, you're gonna be so different. You're gonna be by yourself. And you know what that does? It then allows you to feel justified in running back to the herd or circle, right? But I think we're all being called forth. We're being called out of that to something new. And will you answer the call or not? You know, sometimes that's the thing. You want to, because it yearns. It's there, right? You want to. But the threat of being alone, because that's the big one for me. The threat of being alone is huge. Like no one, or those of you, if you're in Australia, you call it tall poppy syndrome, right? You don't want to stick out. You don't want to be the one that's ostracized for being different. At least that's how it was for me, especially in school, right? You can't be all that you can be because you might actually incur the hate of other people. Here's what I mean. Give you a really easy example of one of those things for myself. I remember high school typing class. I know that sounds crazy. And yes, it was a typewriter for those of you who have never seen one of those. It was a physical typewriter, not a computer, that we used this, and we had whiteout, all kinds of things. We had the carriage return. You actually had to physically move it. Wow. I know it sounds like it was black and white times, but it wasn't. Anyway, as the entire, now mind you, it's typing 1, so it's beginner typing. As typing class is happening, what transpires is that I find out that I'm pretty good at this thing, and I like doing it because it's fun. And then there were always these tests around speed and accuracy, and your boy Kate kept coming in first all the time, and it was always frustrating, or it became frustrating because this teacher was known for grading on a curve. The problem was the curve was often 100, so it didn't benefit people because let's just put it this way. It got uncomfortable to the point to where I was eventually excluded from the curve, right? Because I was just doing my best, having fun, bebopping my head and loving typing and doing what we were doing. Yet, I can't say that every time that I've stuck out that way that I just decided to not care what other people thought, right? Because that's not true. And that happens, right? Maybe you're presented with an opportunity to change or reform your business, or you're being presented with your business failed. And that is something your identity is resisting. Without understanding that through that process, just because you experienced a failure event, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means that version, it's time to go to 2.0, right? I think Microsoft taught us all that lesson the best. Start with Windows 3. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about there, don't worry. But it had to do with a lot of floppies. A lot. And that didn't mean they failed. In fact, when is Windows done? Who knows? My point is simple. We're all a work in progress. Also, though, when we're presented an opportunity, some of our preconceived notions about what it takes to become that something also come up. For example, and again, forgive the number of business references. It's just easiest for me, okay? But oftentimes when I'm talking to a new entrepreneur, a new would-be entrepreneur, someone who's never been, quote unquote, in sales before, we have to have this exercise where, and I'll do this with you guys right now because I'm curious. So I'm going to say a word and I want you to type in the chat the first word that comes to your mind. Like what is it? Like it's your definition, right? So I'm going to say a word, type it in chat. Ready? Here we go. If I said to you, sales, like the process of sales, there's another S word. First he said submit, now he's saying sales. Good Lord. Anyway, sales is what? What is sales? When you think of the word the process of sales, or salesperson. Sales or salesperson. A salesperson is, or sales is, what's the words that come to your mind that describe sales or a salesperson? Type those in the chat. Because understanding that oftentimes what's in the way of us becoming the new thing is a preconceived notion about the thing. Now, it doesn't mean that the notion is accurate or inaccurate. It just means that there is a preconceived notion about the thing. In this particular case, it really hurts us when that preconceived notion about the thing is actually part of what makes you successful at the thing. Meaning, a business does not survive without the process of sales or a salesperson or something like this. That process has to happen. And yet, if we have a negative neuroassociation to the word sales or process of sales, or thinking, oh my God, I'm a salesperson, do you think you're ever actually going to do it? The answer is no. The answer is no. Right? I encounter this a lot with real estate people because they're like, well, I don't want to be a slumlord. I'm like, I never said you were gonna be. But what does that word mean to you? Because there's a lot of emotion behind it, right? Which can prevent some people from even writing an offer, right? Or it forces them to go to a higher quality of real estate that can be unaffordable way sooner in their career. So sales is, here's another word, the wealthy are, the wealthy, those you consider wealthy. And again, wealth does not have to be a monetary definition, but the wealthy are, what is that word? What is the word that's there for you? Because there's a word, I don't know what, but there's a word, all right? And as we're continuing to talk about cognitive dissonance, it's important that we at least begin to shine light on the words that you've associated, you've chosen, no one, or maybe you were given them and then you decided to adopt it, but these words matter. What you believe about the wealthy is important, right? Because especially when you're going through change. And then this one might even, so here, big old trigger warning right now. Okay, and by the way, be nice to each other in the chat. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just everybody's here. We're all on this process, this journey together. So this next one is probably, trigger warning. That's all I'm going to say. The 1% are. What to you when you hear that? What goes through your body, your mind? Is there an emotion? Is it positive? Is it negative? And again, it doesn't matter. Just type it in the chat. Here's my point. If you say, for example, you're evaluating an opportunity that has the possibility, dare I say, the probability of increasing your net worth, maybe even putting you in the category of the 1%, but it also requires sales. And the words you just wrote were all negative, like sales or salespeople are slick or untrustworthy, and the wealthy are greedy, and the 1% are just deceitful. I don't know. I'm having to struggle to make this stuff up because I don't know what you guys said just yet. My point is, though, you don't see yourself, and you shouldn't, but you don't see yourself as those things. You don't see yourself as a deceitful, greedy, and or untrustworthy. So therefore, even if a business or something is good for you and in the direction you actually want to go, but you held those beliefs to be true about those things, and you recognize, even if only subconsciously, that those things are what's necessary or probable for you should you choose to go down this road, understand you're in your own way because you've said these things are there. And that's where struggle often shows up for all of us. For all of us. That's why you often just keep taking the same job. This is where you are emotionally comfortable. You don't have to change. You don't have to grow. We don't give ourselves the opportunity to become the butterfly. because, man, what if I come out the wrong color? I mean, if I come out with 2 colors, but, Jane's got 3 colors, and, we all know what those 3-color butterflies are like. Really? But this is like literally the process that happens when change is thrust upon us, or is in our future, or is coming our way, because we confuse our role versus our identity. And we now are being gifted an opportunity to shape our identity after what we actually desire. That's how I see what's going on. I'm doing the same thing that I'm talking about here. It was last week, 2 weeks ago even, I had cognitive dissonance around going live every day. Lots of it. Even though we've produced 600 podcast episodes, more than 1,100 videos on YouTube. I've lost track of how many webinars. Spoken to tens of thousands of people in various countries. I still had cognitive dissonance around going live every day. Could I provide that much value? Oh my God, I've never even thought. People aren't gonna. Man, don't you know like if you mess this up, the comments, and especially on YouTube, man, they ruthless. Understand, I don't want to be one of those guys. Anyway, cognitive dissonance can stop you. Okay, that's important to understand. As we continue, though, and hopefully building you and making it okay to struggle, right? It's completely okay. See, that tension we all feel, it's a new version of you that is groaning. I like the word groaning. It's a new you that is groaning to be born. Like, please let me out. Please. I would like to show you that you can be great. Think about that for a second. You can be great. And just because you can be doesn't mean the transition is going to be smooth, simple, or easy, or you're going to have all the answers, because guess what? You're not. And that's also okay. See, the developing the courage to become great often has to do with things outside of us, right? I've never been skydiving yet. And if I was to go skydiving, I can promise you it's not an internal thing that would make me go, yeah, I can do this. It's the fact that parachute is on your boy's back. Okay, that's just really where it is. I can feel it all internally, all you want, but knowing that parachute is there, or the instructor, or whatever they call the person that's on your back, that is going to play a big role in how much courage I have, especially you're facing out the window. I mean, ooh, Lord. You know what I'm saying? So, that new you is groaning. It is desirous. This is why it feels somewhat torturous. At least it does for me. Because you can hop from book to book, seminar to seminar, video to video, live stream, YouTube video to YouTube video, inspirational quote to inspirational quote. You're attracted to those things because typically there's something inside of you that is seeking expression, and it hasn't found its way to fully express itself yet. Not yet. But you're attracted to the things that give you the opportunity to do it. Do you hear what happens to us? It's so crazy. We're attracted to the things that gives us the opportunity. Ooh, I can finally be the artist and painter I want. If I do this, then I can go, that would be great. And then we try to get closer to it, and all this stuff comes up, right? And we have to deal with literally what's there. A new you is groaning to be born. It is. And then, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes, because the process of your rebirth was never meant to be smooth. The process of your birth wasn't smooth either, right? You just don't remember it. So it was, that process is not smooth. Not pretty. It's not neat. Not even, there's so many things that it's not. But yet we want that to be, now suddenly we want that to happen. And if it doesn't, if I can't see how this process of change is going to be smooth, then I'm just going to stick to what I already know and do. And that's what happens. And a lot of what I'm sharing with you has been inspired by specifically 4 different interactions I've had since this whole 4 interactions I've had with, in some cases, the person was actually able to get past and become a customer, begin to step into that greatness, but in others, not so much. Some totally perplexed me, in general, right? Because it's hard for me to want to stay the same. Like, recognizing a weakness is one thing. Choosing to let it stay there, that's something I just don't understand and try to not do, right? That's why I'm going live every day, because I recognize the weakness and it's like, okay, it's time for this to stop. I should not be afraid of this anymore. Let's see what we can do. Let's try. Let's see what happens. Can we help people get through this time? And at the same time, can you help yourself quiet that voice that keeps telling you what you aren't and can't do? The process of your rebirth was never meant to be smooth. In fact, it's for those of you who are parents or maybe aunties and uncles and whatnot, you that process, it's filled with, like, in one moment, right? Think about it, a new child coming into the family, or adoption even. That process is filled with, in one moment, expectation to the highest of heights. We are shopping and we've got lists and we've got, all the stuff because we're excited about it. It's like, oh, this is great, and you're thinking, gee, I wonder, is it boy, the first question all the time, boy or girl? And then, but then it doesn't take too long before it goes to, what, will she be a doctor? I wonder, they're going to be like their parents? That's interesting. Or will they be faithful? Will they believe what I believe? Are they going to just be a nice person? Can I just raise a nice kid? That would be great. I just want someone healthy. That's what, because there's a lot of expectation. And again, I have definitely experienced the whole miscarriage thing, and then it says like, oh gosh, it can be a letdown. I thought I was going to be, but I am not. And we have to deal with that because that's part of the process of the struggle, the change, and all the things that we consider worth it. We go through this process, right? See, it's highly unlikely that my or your existing circumstances, so think your job, your house, your car, or the things that you have in your life, was intentional. Meaning, oftentimes the job that you had or maybe don't have now, you kind of fell into it. It was what was available, right? It wasn't necessarily by choice, and likely not even associated with any degree if you have one that you do have. That it just was there. It was, okay, I gotta eat, and they said yes. Cool, I will learn whatever I gotta learn, and let's go. And that was the beginning of your dissatisfaction, right? It solved the immediate problem, but it didn't allow you to live close to your values. And then over time, the money just wasn't worth it. And then it became, well, what else am I gonna do? And we're all being given the gift of choice. Like right now, all of us, the choice. We all have a choice. We have active agency to choose right now. So it's almost like I'm literally asking you, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe it's been a while since someone's asked you that one, right? And it doesn't mean you know how to become the thing. I'm just asking, what do you want to be? Just think about it. So the question then becomes, now what, Jay? Okay, great. I heard everything that you're saying. It's okay to struggle. Maybe my role and identity have got to completely change. Maybe they were given to me and now I got a choice. Great. What do I do about it? Well, here's what it comes down to. Here's what it is always. These are things that I have used to help reshape and change my identity, how I related to the world, who I stepped into the world to become and to be. Here's what I mean. And so that we're clear, change happens fast. I'm not even going to give you the option to think that it's going to take time for me to. No. Change happens fast, right? In order to complete a change, it's time to begin to build your evidence, your body of belief, if you will, so that you, when tempted, because you will be tempted, this happens all the time. The moment you make a decision that is in the direction of the thing you want to become, also right there is the pressure to go right back. Right? In the environment, you feel safe. You're like, yes. Then you get by yourself 15 minutes later, and you're like, what did I just do? I cannot believe it. And we want to get back to that normal emotional feeling. We've got to learn to make these important decisions when we're emotionally sober, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. What do? You, me, we have to build our belief daily. See, part of, or what's behind going live every day, at least for me, is can I, as a human being, as a flawed, imperfect human being, can I even be that consistent? Like, outside of like brushing your teeth, what else have you done every day for 30 days? These are thoughts that go through my crazy head. Maybe not yours, okay? All right, I'm not saying you had this thought, and keep your judgments to yourself. My point is, build your belief daily. Daily. Now, interestingly, when we're adopting a new identity, even though we like it, even though it might be good for us, understand that daily might not be frequently enough. You might have to build your belief hourly. Like every hour, set something like something, an activity, a something someone could point and go, oh, they're changing. They're doing something different now. And I can remember times when doing this, I had to set my watch to go off every 15 minutes, and so that I could build my belief every 15 minutes, every quarter hour, because it was hard to see, hard to envision. How can I, so let me give you an example of what I mean. How can I suddenly become this real estate investor person when I am still understand, I am learning real estate, the techniques, all this other stuff. And when I go home, I am squatting in bank-owned property. Like that's like that is my reality in front of me. I can't avoid that. When I go home, there's a notice on the door from the sheriff or the bank or the blah, 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 blah. When I go home, hear me? Are you feel me yet? How can I? Because it's like these are two completely different worlds. But learning to create a body of belief, a body of evidence, that continually builds my belief on a daily basis towards the thing that I wish to experience and see. That's what makes the difference. That's what gives me the freedom to continue to believe that this new thing is possible, even though my reality keeps communicating something completely different. You may be unemployed right now. That doesn't mean you can't start a business. You may be down to your last stack of cash. Doesn't mean anything other than you can still choose the next thing. Just because you can't see the entire staircase, that does not mean take no steps. It doesn't mean that. You learning to go as far as you can see. That's what I was taught. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll see further. It's foggy out there. Yeah, the sun may be shining, but it's foggy. And you don't know, and you haven't seen, and it's uncertain. But you can put guardrails around you, because there are examples in the world of whatever it is you wish and aspire to be. There are. Right? So how do I like to build this body of belief that easily then translates to evidence that, yes, I'm on the right track? I simply ask myself. This is what I had to do. I had to learn to ask myself. In fact, I had a very important gentleman in my life who said the following words. Because mind you, my reality, squatting a bank-owned property, credit score 398, no money, all the stuff. And he said to me, in fact, he said to the entire class, even if you weren't yesterday, I'm paraphrasing, but even if you weren't yesterday, today you are a real estate investor. I'm like, okay. Because maybe you chuckled the same way, right? Because that's literally what happens. Even if you weren't yesterday, today you are a short-term rental operator. And I know that people chuckle at that, but that's how, okay, cool, change, done. That part's done. Now what we've got to do is build this evidence so that it's easier and easier and easier for you to believe every day that you are the thing you say you are. What does that mean in this case? Real estate investors write offers. What? But I don't know where the money comes from. Real estate investors write offers. Yeah, but I have a credit score. Real estate investors write offers. But what if I did that? Real estate, because see, that's what happens. You're being confronted. I was confronted with the thing that turned out to be the solution. Go figure. Owning assets, learning to build them, turned out to be the solution. And I think it's true for every one of us, right? Anyway. We have to do that. That's work that you and we have to do. No one can do it for us. No one can build your belief for you. You can borrow someone else's belief for a time. But you have to build yours. And that's often where we start. Borrow someone else's, but take the actions to build yours. And I had to learn to write offers, even though it felt weird, right? Even though it felt very not me. Because at the time, squatting in bank, I'm who I am. I'm the guy squatting in bank-owned property. Used to be a financial planner, selling my stuff on eBay. But I'm going to write this real estate offer, I guess. And I learned to keep writing offers. I remember the very first one. The very first one was so bad. And I went through so many emotions, right? I was like, okay, so I wrote the offer. And then I was like, okay, cool. I wrote the offer, then I submitted it. Almost the moment, like the millisecond I gave it to the seller, I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? What if they say, straight hyperventilating? Because in my head was going two things almost simultaneously. Man, they're not going to accept that. It's too low. But I didn't know what else to do, so I just wrote that. Again, they're not going to accept that. There's no way that that's going to work, and then blah, blah. Yeah. Well, at least you tried. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do it again. And then somewhere during that weekend, because I did it on a Friday, and I said something I wanted to find out more or figure out what was going on. And they told me they were going to get back over the weekend. So I had the entire weekend to stew over this possibility. It was now possible that this person could say yes. And oh my God, that's when I started freaking out. Because at first I went down the no path. And then all of a sudden I was like, what if they say yes? Like, what if they say yes? Oh my God, what if they say yes? What am I going to do? Then I started freaking out again. Understand, I was freaking out either way. So might as well freak out over the possibility of giving myself the possibility of becoming something different than not. And that's exactly what happened. They eventually said no, which is fine. And I learned to write offers and to keep writing them, right? Because I learned a very important lesson. An offer is just an invitation for a conversation. That's it. That's it. See, the title of this was an offer. It was an invitation for a conversation that you and I are having right now to various levels. And, you know, depending on where you are in your feelings, you're having all kinds of emotions, but hopefully they're helpful. So let me be very specific. When it comes to building the body of belief, what I like to do is I like to ask myself questions like, this new version of me, this new short-term rental operator, what would he do on a daily basis? How would he act and or respond to a particular threat or news or something he perceived as a threat? What would be the response? Because whatever that response would be, that's what I would need to now begin to adapt. That would be the body of belief that I would need to begin to adapt if I wanted to become something different. How does I'm making it up again. How does a trapeze artist respond to heights? What do they think about? What's going through their brain? If I'm going to become a trapeze artist, what do I need to believe about heights and ladders and nets and my partner in order to make this work? And I then begin working on those things, you know? What do they say? What do they feel about? All of the things, because I have to redefine this new person. Because see, you already know how you feel about certain things like, oh, hey, remember? Sales, wealthy, 1%. You told me what that is. And now you have to ask yourself, if I'm actually going to own a business that has real potential to do the things that I say I want to do, the people who do own a business that has real potential, that do the things that, you know, what do they feel about? How do they act? What are those things? Write it out. Because that's what I've had to do. Write it out. So that I could begin to see tangibly, this is what I need to be doing. This is what I need to be believing. These are things I need to be reading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that I could begin to adopt those beliefs, taste them, test them, make them my own. But that process is a struggle because inside the same day, you're going to be confronted with the old version of you. The more decisions you make, the faster you make them, the stronger that pushback can sometimes feel, right? Because you've gotten used to operating a certain way. It is not uncommon for this to happen. This happens all the time. Think about it. How many times have you bought something that was on the way and then you're like, and then you're like, nope, you know what? That's it. You wake up the next day. What did I do? That's stupid. I'm returning it. You've done it an insane number of times. You gave yourself the chance, then you took it away because you that resistance to the new person. Here's a big one, which I still find very ironic, by the way, because again, being someone who helps people do real estate, what's funny to me, or at least ironic at times, is how people we can sometimes get hung up on. It's just ironic to me. We get hung up on things like small things. Paying for real estate training, for example. This is a personal example because that's kind of what we do. But here's why I find it ironic is the training that you're paying for, the book that you're paying for, or the whatever it is. I don't care. You don't want to do that, but you think you're ready to go put 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100, 200, $250,000 down on a piece of property. Like if you can't figure out how to get yourself in an emotional state where you can do this small commitment, you're in trouble. And then it goes another step because it starts when we start talking about financing, they're like, oh my God, that interest rate is insane. I would never pay that. Well, then you may never get a deal. Because given all of the resources and situations that you are currently looking at, that's kind of what it's going to be for you. And if you don't reconcile that, then you probably won't be able to actually make real estate happen. Because it's part of the process. And again, it's just interesting to me how that happens. It'd be like saying, hey, I want to become a professional cyclist. awesome, like a road bike, if you will. But I would never ride my bike on this next to a car. Well, then you can't have one without the other. Both don't exist at the same time, right? So hopefully, I don't know if this helped or not, but if you would, what would be very encouraging to me is if you can, in the chat, type just one thing, because I'm going to look at because I got an appointment I got to get to, but I'm going to go read this stuff because I'm curious. One thing in the chat that helped you today. And if it's nothing, that's fine. It won't hurt my feelings that you're like, dude, this was a complete waste of time. Fine. Got it. Understood. I'll try and do better. Because see, that feedback will help me improve. Right? That's the goal, is to always get better. Constant, never-ending improvement. But if there is something, type it in the chat, because there's probably a friend or a family member or who knows, someone else who you don't know yet. They may have gotten the same thing. And by you taking the time to be willing to share something that you learned, well, who knows? That may help them feel that it's okay to struggle too. All right, so let me look at some of what you guys wrote today, and we'll be done here shortly because your boy has got to go. Here we go. All right, scrolling back up. Yes. Is it day 8? Did I write the wrong day? Oh, no, today's day 8. Yeah. Hey, Renette, how are you? Welcome back. Glad to be here. Susan, and for those of you who are still like watching on Facebook, etc. Oh, that was the wrong one. Totally forgot about that. That button. Sorry. We will be over at facebook.com/CashFlowDiary Live. Those of you on YouTube, you are in the right spot because we will be cutting down the number of locations that we are streaming to. Who's that? Leisha. I'm gonna go with Leisha Livingston. Yes. Thank you, Leisha. Thanks for coming and being here today. Thank you. Hopefully you decide to come back. Bryant, what's up, man? So glad that you're here. Julie, heck, thank you for taking the time to let us know. LaShawn is here at work. Don't get in trouble. Jim G, what's up? Thank you for hanging out on YouTube. And hello from Hey, Tanya, how are you? All the way in Minneapolis. Now, see, what's amazing to me is that some entrepreneurs recognize opportunity. LaTanya here, she does killer design. She's designed all of our short-term rentals, but she's also designing a short-term rental for one of our students right now, and that's why she's all the way in Minneapolis now. Think about it. Many people, if they thought about it, short-term rental, they're like, wait, what? Now? Are you sure? Yeah, I know. Hey, will you be posting this later? I'm not quite sure what that means. I thought on YouTube it stayed there, but maybe it doesn't, so I'll have to check. So we're not gonna take it down. So Bryant, yes, unlearning the bad habits. Thank you, Renette. It's not about learning a string of habits. It's more about unlearning the habits that have kept you poor. 100%. Hey, Daniel, how are you? Money. Oh, got it. I like it. You sales makes the world go round. Bryant, I like that a lot. Slimy. Yes. See, this is what I'm talking about. If you have this in your head, that can make it difficult for you to go do the thing because you don't want to be slimy and you resist slimy so much you just sabotage the business before it even starts. You know, I like it. Sales, solving problems and pain points. Chris Cook, I like that one. I tend to think of sales equals service. That is the thing that's the unlock for me. I love it. A salesperson has to be good with people and reading people to be successful. Tammy, interesting. And all I'm going to say is, just so that you know, I have ADHD and I'm autistic. What does that mean? My own daughter once told me, Dad, you don't people well. So that we're really clear. And I've got a body of evidence that proves social interaction and skills are not exactly what they could be. But I would say that I hear what you're saying, but be willing to question that one for sure. Sales are always happening though. For sure. Frugal. Yes, the wealthy are mentors. Chris, that's powerful. I like that one for sure. Yes, think and act differently. Resourceful. The wealthy are accountable. Oh my God, Stephanie, crushing it. Love it. Love it. Robert is tagging Cheryl. Cheryl, yes, get on over here. Love it. Devondre says, love the shirt. Thank you. Because I just think it's true. 1% are successful with strategies. I like that. Doing the opposite. The 1% are doing the opposite of the masses. You're probably right about that one too. Change is okay. So Stephanie says change is hard. Being accountable for yourself is tough, but both are worth it. Got it. The one word I'm going to disagree with here, Stephanie, is the word hard. I would submit for your acceptance is take hard and put unfamiliar, because typically we're not talking about like the physical substance of change. It's typically just so unfamiliar. It feels like it's foreign. Like, I don't know, can't do it. So hopefully that makes sense. Build your belief. I have to sign off, but good info. Oh, Periscope was in the house today, but thanks. Yes. So to that point, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this, I don't know, hopefully it's been helpful. I'm glad that you guys have continued and you continue to, and you have chosen to participate. We intend on being back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Feel free to bring back a friend, because that would be nice. That would be nice. Want to know that I'm not talking to myself or helping just me. But at the end of the day, go out there, try again, build. Don't freak out just because it's unfamiliar, just because it's new, just because it's something that your friends haven't done or you feel scared. All of those emotions are normal. But now ask yourself, hey, if I was, the person that I wanted to become, what do they do when they feel scared? Adopt a new habit, adopt a new way of thinking, seeing the world, because oftentimes there's a really huge gift on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time. Whoops.